Moving on to USDB, we will move into our capacity as the board for the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind. And I guess we'll turn that to Superintendent Coleman before we go into any public comment that might apply to USDB. Come on down, right?
Yeah,
Am I?
I'm gonna sit up back.
Are you coming up? Okay. I don't know. It's in there. There you go. Oh, yeah. Do I look off? Oh, gotcha. That's always productive use of time. All right, good morning, our USDB leaders. Good to have you. And I have on the agenda, first item is a public comment from Tamara Flint. Am I reading this correctly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So Tammy's my assistant. She's not actually making a public comment.
Okay, I thought,
Okay.
we're going,
Wondering,
Molly and I were puzzling over that. We thought,
little concerned.
Tamara's always welcome to make public comment if she'd like, but.
Yeah. I'm going to have a little chat with her now. No, not really. But we have this item on the agenda because this month and next month we have an item on the agenda that is a compliance item for approving the fee schedule and the fee policy. And so we're required to have public hearing time on that. And so that's what that item is meant for. The same thing will happen next month when you actually take a vote to approve the fee schedule and the fee policy that we have. And by the way, nothing's changed with those from last year. Just FYI, they're exactly the same.
Okay. With that, let's turn then to Carl Empey, our finance director, right? Mm-hmm. All right, for the USDB monthly budget update.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chairs, and board members. It's a pleasure to be here. The financial report that we are presenting is for the first 10 months. They ended April 30th. We continue to remain financially solvent. We've got plenty of cash on hand to pay all of our bills, and the finances look really strong. The revenues and inflows of monies for the 10 months totaled $40.2 million. Our expenditures were $40.7 million, leaving us $2.5 million excess right now. This is a busy time of year as we are spending money to close out the fiscal year. A lot of bills are coming due, and we'll report next month what that surplus is. A couple interesting things to bring to your attention is the number of students served. Just to kind of bring to your attention some trends that we started off with 339 students back in September of total campus students. That has grown to 395, so an increase of 56 students over the school year. The total number of students receiving services, we started off at 1,870 and ended with 2,278, so a total of 408 increase. The number of services really exploded that we're providing to students. Started off at 3,753, and we ended at 5,659 at the end of April, an increase of 1,906. So that represents a 51% increase of services that we're providing to our students throughout the school year. The three fund balances that we report to you on is first the Land Grant Enrichment Fund. The balance in that is $559,863. Our donated fund is roughly, well, I'm just going to give you the amount, 271,486, and our foundation is at 1,108,000. The next 2 pages is the budget status report that gives all of the supporting detail for those numbers that I just referenced. Then the next report is our enrichment fund projects and our year-to-date spending. Of the $1,514,000 that was authorized, we have spent $790,000, leaving a balance about $751,000. And we've got a lot of summer camps and a lot of activities that we anticipate spending the large portion of that money on. So, Mr. Chair, that is the financial reports. I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of the board members may have.
Thank you, Director Empey. Any questions, comments from board members? Seeing none, we can move, I guess, to the fee schedule.
Okay, the school fee schedule that's in your packet, as Superintendent Coleman mentioned, is to have 2 public consecutive hearings. We'll have one this month that you just had, and we'll come back in August and have you give the public opportunity to comment. We only have 3 fees. It's very simple. The fees are, the athletic fee is $100 per student per activity. The study abroad fee is really a deposit of $500. When the kids actually get ready for their trip, we refund that $500 back to them, and that's spending money for their trip. It really is to keep the kids from canceling at the last minute, and we've incurred all of the airlines, the hotels, and the travel agent fees. And then the last fee was new last year, and that is we start up a driver's education program, and that fee is $250 per student. The fee schedule in the blue is the fees that we charge the school districts, the greater than 3% districts, for services that we provide to them. And then the amber color, pink color, salmon color, whatever color that is basically miscellaneous fees that we charge our staff, lunch fees, copy fees, and so forth. So we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have on the fee schedule.
Questions, comments, Vice Chair Hart, and also Member
Yeah,
Bogus. Sorry, I may have you out of order.
Can you just clarify, you charge your staff 10 cents a copy?
Well, that's what we can charge up to. We don't do that anymore. We really need to get with our copy providers and see what that cost is and bring that down. But it doesn't obligate us to charge them 10 cents a copy. We have very few color copies being made throughout the year.
Like, how do teachers just, like, write a check?
They write a check, or they can just pay on the portal for the copies that they make.
Okay.
It's personal. It's not work copy related.
Oh, it's personal
Yeah,
copies?
personal, yes.
Okay, all
So
right.
sometimes
Woo!
we actually allow incidental copies. But
Okay.
like sometimes they'll come and say, hey, I need to do this thing personally, and I'm doing this many
Okay.
pages.
No,
Can I
that's-
pay for it? That's what we charge them.
That's a great service. I was just concerned I mean, it's an innovative way to reduce the number of copies, but, you know.
Now, there's an idea.
All right, Member Bogus and then Member Lear.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a question about in the LEA fees. You have in there out-of-state tuition, and I'm wondering how many students you have on that?
2 right now.
And how that actually, maybe that's something
We-
that I missed when you were speaking, but.
We just have one, and and it graduates, and it was from White Pine, Nevada. We had one from Evanston too, didn't we?
Oh,
Wyoming?
we had some with Star Valley.
Star Valley. But we just have one currently, so they just graduated.
And how does that work, I guess? Maybe is my question, do they cross the border to attend a school here in Utah? Or are they one of your campus students that comes and lives on campus? I guess I don't truly understand what that would be.
They're typically campus students. They come and reside on campus during the week, and then they have to go to home, an aunt or an uncle on the weekends. They usually find someone on the weekends that staying with, but they are with us Monday through Friday, and they live on campus.
Interesting, I just didn't know.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Nevada doesn't have a school for the deaf, and neither does Wyoming, so those are the two that usually contract with us.
Awesome, thank you.
Member Lear.
Hi, thank you. I noted that you have so few fees. That would be a dream situation for any school, so lucky you guys in so many ways, and the students too. Anyway, my question was, if you're providing services to a student who attends Granite School District, and that student is eligible for fee waivers, who is it that pays the fees? Does the USDB or who waives the fees or who absorbs the fees? Granite or USDB?
USDB does.
Okay, that's helpful to know. I'm always really concerned about that, and there's no perfect answer, but I appreciate knowing. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, Barbie Faust on your staff, in fact, all your staff members are terrific support to us when we reach out and ask them for questions and clarifications and any assistance. So I just want to give credit to the board staff for all their help.
Thank you. All right, on to item 3.4, information item on the Mill Creek portable site work.
And I guess that's me. This is the contract that we discussed briefly last month at the meeting, saying time was of the essence. We couldn't wait until today for the meeting for the direction. And so Chairman Moss gave us permission last week to proceed to issuing the purchase order. This is a contract with a company called HK Consulting. The dollar amount is $147,000 and change. It's to disconnect the utilities at the Mill Creek Portable, tear the portable apart. Just breaks our heart that we have to do that, and then transport it up to the Salt Lake campus in Mill Creek, and then reassemble and rebuild the portable and reconnect the utilities. Understand they've already disconnected the utilities over at Mill Creek Elementary, and we'll be seeing tractors preparing the site work at our Mill Creek campus, and then we'll probably be seeing the portable being located here in the next 3 weeks. So that's the update on that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and we had a couple questions about the contract and the larger scope of work and MOU, and appreciate giving us the info on that, and glad it's moving along. Any questions from board members? Seeing none, we can move to 3.5, an action item on school-based mental health screenings.
This item, Mr. Chair, is the one item we need the board to vote on today, and that is we're required to, every LEA is required to make a declaration one way or the other for under the new law about excuse me, doing mental health screenings in schools, and we need the board to approve our option, which is to be a non-participating LEA, and so that's our recommendation, and I'll just tell you the reason behind that is because here's a good analogy. You know how every school does vision screenings? It wouldn't make sense for USDB to do vision screenings because we're way past that at the diagnosis stage and in the weeds. Same thing with the mental health needs of the kids on our campuses. We have school psychologists and others according to their IEPs, and we're very familiar with their mental health needs. We don't need to do a screening either.
All right, I see Superintendent, no, that's you. Okay, just making sure I don't miss. All right, Member Davis, Member Earl, Vice Chair Earl, and Member Hart. Vice Chair Hart.
Yeah, thank you. I just remember you coming and expressing to us that the mental health needs and the emotional supports are much greater in your school than in a lot of schools because of the data and the rates of potential abuse and some other things. So I guess I'm just following up to that meeting a long while ago and just checking with you. How do you get to know what the individual needs are without a screener? I'm assuming it's because you have a smaller population and can really just dive in and have individual conversations with kids, but what do you typically do instead of something like this that a larger school would do?
Well, this is for a screening, like if you were in a large LEA and you just gave it to every child to find if there's issues. Every one of our students on our campuses has an entire IEP team, and they evaluate, diagnose, discuss every single need of that child. And so a screening would be actually redundant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Earl?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that the board approves the USDB to opt out as participating LEA for school-based mental health screenings, Utah code, I don't need to read that, do I?
No.
Okay.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Member Booth. Any discussion on the motion? Member Earl?
Yeah, I'll just quickly speak to it. I think that screeners are just that, they're broad analysis. Their effectiveness, they may be effective, may not. It just depends on what you're using. I think in this case with these students that knowing what your students need already, instead of waiting for the screener to give you an indication, I think in this situation, I think that it's very appropriate to move beyond an extra step that is not necessary. So thank you.
Vice Chair Hart, Member Bogus?
No, she made them.
Okay, Member Bogus.
Oh, I was just getting ready to vote, sir.
Okay. Well, seeing no other lights.
I'm ready. I'm first in line.
All right, we'll start at the top then. The motion is that the board approves the USDB to opt out as participating LEA for school-based mental health screenings. Member Bogus.
Yes, sir.
Member Booth.
Yes.
Member Klein.
Yes.
Member Davis.
Yes.
Vice Chair Earl.
Yes.
Member Green. Yes. Vice Chair Hart.
Yes.
Member Hymas.
Yes.
Member Carey.
Yes.
Member Lear.
Yes.
Member Norton.
Yes.
Member Rio.
Yes.
Member Straight.
Yes.
Member Wood.
Yes.
And Member Moss is a yes. I realized, I think we've had everybody here for the first time, so we can move from the roll call votes. All right, that is passed unanimously. Thank you. And item 3.6 was initially noticed as an action item, but it will be this month just an information item. So turn that to Superintendent Coleman.
Thank you. This is, we wanted to include this in your packet so you're up to date. This is the draft, a very rough draft of the strategic facilities plan that was recommended by the auditors from the Office of the Legislative Auditor General in their space utilization study. I have trouble saying so many big words in a row sometimes, so I have to really be careful. Anyway, this is for your information. It's an update. We met this week with the subcommittee from the board that was appointed by the chair, and that included Vice Chair Earl and Board Member Norton and Board Member Wood, and as well as the Executive Director of DFCM and Scott Jones from your board office here, and myself and the two associate superintendents. And so we went through this, and this will still be modified and revised and updated, and then we will be meeting again as many times as necessary as a committee before it comes back to the board for approval, so that you can say to the legislature, this is the plan that we have for USDB, and then hopefully get them to release those funds. So we won't go into depth on this since it's a draft, but we wanted to have you aware of it and be able to read through it, understanding that it will be updated.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from board members? Really appreciate the newly appointed committee for digging in and working on the issue. I've also spoken with PEA leadership. They're appreciative that the committee is working with Superintendent Coleman. They're anticipating hearing the report and are happy that things are moving forward, and looking forward to hearing from them, I think, at PEA first, and then later on. It's still being discussed, but PEA's in the loop, and they're glad the work's moving forward. So thank you. Seeing no other lights, let's go to number 3.7. This is the, right, that was just information, yeah. So 3.7, USDB Boston stateside adventure presentation from Dr. Patton, Associate Superintendent of the Blind.
Thank you. So this is a video our students, USDB students, and also outreach students went to, as you recall, the School for the Blind changed instead of study abroad, we are doing stateside adventures. And this spring, we went to Boston, and we're able to meet with the Perkins School for the Blind, and you'll see various other entities. The kids had to submit different artifacts as far as in regards to the requirements that were given to them. So it was very educational and really heightening their awareness of our expanded core curriculum. I do want to mention, we really try hard to make sure that the videos are accessible to the public as far as our blind, visually impaired individuals and our deaf, hard of hearing. This one is not audio described, but will be once it's on the website. So I know that we don't have any issues with the board itself, but anybody that is joining it from the public, we wanted to make that aware that it will be accessible. So go ahead.
So before we went to our trip to Boston, we had coursework, and it ranged from a variety of topics, such as travel skills, learning how to navigate the airport, navigating a busy city, and communication skills, such as how to communicate your needs effectively, especially to those people who don't know you, like maybe a stranger who asks for a stranger who you're asking for help in public, or maybe even the flight attendant on the plane. So you need to be able to explain what you can see in layman's terms. Like, I can see about a foot in front of me, I can see all color, large detail, like colors, but not fine detail, like facial expressions, all that good stuff. And just a bunch of other skills that you will need to be successful in our trip to Boston.
So something that I did before I went to Boston, I researched a bunch of, because we went to Salem, so I researched a bunch of cool facts about Salem and the Salem witch trials. And then I also researched a bunch of history about Boston itself prior to the trip. And when I was on that trip, and I just knew what they were talking about as they were talking about it, and I was able to make that connection of learning it prior to this trip. We went to the Perkins School for the Blind out there, and I had a light bulb moment. I was like, wasn't this the school that Helen Keller went to when she was little? And it actually was the school that she went to, and they have a cottage named after her and Anne Sullivan, which was her teacher. And so something that we learned when Helen Keller was 6-ish years old, she ended up having to go to this school because she could no longer see or hear. So, yeah, and that happened when she was 19 months old, when she lost her hearing and her sight. And I was like, yeah, it's a lot.
Honestly, in person, it gives you more knowledge, and you're learning so much there when you're in person. When you're reading a book about it, or listening to auto descriptive about it, you're not really getting a whole lot of travel experience with the learning experience, with the learning of history about it.
My favorite thing we did was finding famous people at Fenway Park. Luke Bryan, Bruce Springsteen, Florida Georgia Line, Kane Brown.
Yeah, this was actually my first time to Boston. I've never been to the Northeast, and so it was really interesting to go down there. And I mean, it's really cool. They got Salem, which we went to Salem. A lot of history down there. That's one of my favorite parts, was the history, for sure.
I love how diverse downtown Boston is, because there's a little Italy there, so all the Italian settlers settled in a little area of Boston, and then there's another area where all the Jewish people settled. And as we went all on this trolley tour around Boston, it was really cool to look at the cultural differences and the cultural impacts that each of those cultures had on the city of Boston and the history, and ultimately they contributed to what Boston life is like now. From the architecture, the food, the customs, the way people talk there, the lingo, and yeah, it was awesome.
They're fantastic, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I think that the kids speak for themselves, you know, and these are videos that are going to be so great to be able to have on our website to be promoting future trips. The School for the Blind is we're going to be doing things a little bit different than the School for the Deaf. We're not going to be doing a study abroad trip in the next couple years. We're going to be doing two or three possibly different stateside adventures where we can have more kids come and learn those same skills. One of the big things that they learn are orientation mobility skills as far as navigating through our own airport here at Salt Lake City. But also, I laugh because I've been with them, and you have to laugh because it can be very stressful. It's stressful enough for us to go to the airport, right? Let alone having to navigate with no vision. So the other thing that's very critical for our students is to be able to navigate different transit systems. Boston, we also had a trip to Washington, D.C. earlier this year with 5 students, and that was fairly easy for them to navigate because of the transit system that's set up in Washington, D.C. versus the one in Boston. So it's very important if you think about, we take those things for granted because we can see the signs and we can get an awareness of our surroundings. But those are the reasons that we take our kids statewide, not just our campus kids, but all kids statewide who have a vision loss are eligible to go. They just have to apply and be able to explain why they want to go, and then we take them. Is there any questions? I'm very happy to answer anything that I can.
Questions, comments? Member
Yeah,
Green.
is that okay?
No, got it.
Cool. You just answered kind of what it takes for a student to be able to go. Do parents come with that? Do they come with you, or is?
No, not at this point in time. We do have parent meetings throughout, so the parents are very much aware of what's happening and what's going on and what's required. But the students start months before, as far as they have to submit a video application, they also have to submit an essay, they have to submit some history that they've researched about the city and what their goal is and objective. And then we create our own goals and objectives as far as what we're wanting them to learn. And they had to every night, I'll be honest, it is so not a vacation, which you would not think it would be, but the students every night have to submit an artifact of what they learned that day, and they have to do a video recap of what they learned in regards to the expanded core curriculum. So all of these students that went, we had a presentation at the advisory council, and those kids know that expanded core curriculum and why those 9 areas of the expanded core curriculum are so important to them in their life. And anyway, does that answer? That was probably more than what you wanted.
No, those, I had some other follow-up questions, but you answered it. I think it's wonderful. It's really a good video, too.
Thank you.
Typically, the parents want to come. We don't allow them to come because then they get overindulged sometimes or taken care of. We want them to be independent.
And I will say that with the blind school doing a couple of different stateside adventures, we might be able to have more complex kids come, or some kids with some more cognitive disabilities and whatnot. And I'm open to the fact it might be that it's appropriate for a parent to come if there's some health issues or if there's or whatnot, So I don't think that I want to say that absolutely not, we wouldn't be. But if the students can. We want them to be independent. We want them to do this on their own, and so do the parents. So, thank you very much.
Member Lear.
And I just, in response to Member Green's question, I think I mentioned before, there's a young woman in my neighborhood who takes advantage of the services of USDB, and I had the same thought, and I've watched her mature for 3 or 4 years now, working with her a little bit more closely, and I had the same concern, and I think it is so impressive. I think the best thing about this is that parents don't go, that these young people learn to navigate these difficult situations on their own. And I've just watched this young woman really come into her own between about the ages of 14 and 17.
Yeah.
Partly because of those experiences.
Just really quick, one of the situations that we have happen is that, or we set up, is that we kind of get lost in a transit system, and they have to figure out how to get back to their own, or where we're going, and who are they gonna ask. And there was a situation when we were in London, actually, where we said, okay, nobody knows what we're going to do. What are you going to do? And they each had to go and ask somebody individually. And somebody had to walk up to somebody and ask them, tell them where they needed to go and where they needed to get that information from. And that was extremely hard. That's extremely hard for us, let alone somebody that's, got a vision impairment with a cane and there. So it's those kind of problem-solving skills. And if they had a parent, we all as parents would want to jump in and say, oh, you need to be going here, so da-da-da-da-da-da. So anyway, we're trying to teach those independent skills.
And what, if I may, how old, and do they have to be before they can go on the trip?
16.
16?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Dr. Tanner. On to Superintendent Tanner for the Southern Utah School of the Deaf presentation.
All right. So we'll just go into our presentation. This is within the School for the Deaf, and this is our program. We're going to go into we have 3 programs in one at the Southern Utah School for the Deaf. It's also the same director is responsible for outreach services for the deaf, and he's also responsible for the School for the Deaf online services. So if we're looking just specifically at the campus program, you can see some images here of the portable that our students are housed in out there. That's located in St. George, and we partner with the Washington County School District that serves them in the Bloomington Hills Elementary School. There are currently pre-K through kindergarten. We have 1 first grader. Actually, there's 19 students now. All students have a hearing loss. They all have to qualify again through an IEP or a 504 process. And we follow the Utah State Core and their IEPs for their instruction. So there are approximately 5 students per class. So there are currently 19, 3 teachers, 2 aides. On the outreach, you'll see the outreach, there are about 500 students that we serve along the entire state in outreach classrooms. These are the teachers, the itinerant teachers that go out. They're traveling teachers. There are 11 of those. They serve them by either driving to their location or they sometimes do some Zoom meetings. Primarily, though, it's one-on-one. And then we have our the School for the Deaf online services. There have only been like 3 solid students that are totally online, completely online. The rest of them are students in another school across the state, in the district, or even actually with USDB if they need to make up some credits, that are taking some of the online coursework. We even have students that are taking advantage of elementary courses in the online. I'm going to do a brief video from our and it's not showing up, that's why you have backup plans, from our outreach director and the director over of these 3 programs.
My name is Adam Billings. I'm the director for Utah Schools for the Deaf outreach and online programs. Early on, the district was really the ones that approached us and said, we have the students, we just don't have the space for you. So I spent a couple weeks there working one-on-one with district reps, trying to find a location to house a classroom for the deaf. And they had the students, but they didn't have the classroom. And we ended up having to go to a Montessori school and working out a way to use their classroom space to start the program. And now we've been moved from location to location, but we've worked very closely with the district to make sure that the services are provided for the kids. And now our location is at Bloomington Hills. It's behind Bloomington Hills Elementary School. And again, our elementary students move into the mainstream for part of the day, for part of their programming. And we work very closely with those teachers. And it's working with Washington County School District has been a pleasure. They've been very good to work with. They understand the need of our services, and we understand our place with them. Having students in a location where the teachers understand the disability or the need of the student, the specific need of the student is really important. The teachers come in, they're teachers of the deaf, they understand that, you know, if they see a student with a cochlear implant, they know exactly what to do, and that instruction and intervention is happening throughout the day. We also have our own interpreters that come in. We bring in our OT, PT, all of the services that a regular school would provide, but we're able to do that at their level with the communication that they need. Students are able to see other students that look like them, that have the same needs as them. They feel less of a isolation or a feeling of seclusion because they're the only ones that have this or the only ones getting this service. Our online program was started in 2019, and we piloted some math classes first. It was very successful. The following year we moved into English, and we started providing more English classes. We got 2 teachers involved. Now we're providing all required math content, all required English content, most history and social studies and science content for high school students. A couple years ago, we decided we wanted to expand to the elementary program for online learners. So we hired a couple teachers to develop some content for us. Right now, that content is being used in just a few locations across the state, and it's coming from the St. George location. So we have a teacher there that reaches out to students in hard-to-reach areas and provides an online curriculum specifically for deaf and hard of hearing. We're also doing outreach services virtually for the first time, probably in the nation, for Vernal, because we had a need for a teacher there and we couldn't hire somebody in Vernal. So we are trying to incorporate online learning into our outreach programs and into our regular classroom programs. So the hope is that in the future, with a location in St. George, we would also have teachers that could work from that location to serve other areas of the state in outreach services as well as elementary ed programming. In the last 2 years, our programming has gone from 5 to 6, 7 students in the classroom to now we have 20. And so it is growing, and not all of those students will stay with us, but we expect many more to come. And we need to have programming that will allow us to provide a K through 12 program for the kids as they get older and they need those intensive services. Right now it's happening in the younger ages, so our preschools are very big, and little kids grow up. So we know that will continue to be a need for school age kids.
All right, so that is for the 3 programs out there. That's obviously, we're looking at facilities out in that area for the Washington County area. The one thing I want to highlight, you notice we started this a few years ago. We started with 5 students and we're at 20. So you can kind of see how it's growing, even though the numbers are small in the scope of hearing students. In the scope of deaf students, that's pretty significant increase to go from 5 to 20 within just a few years. So we have a lot of students out there. We started with the younger grades and worked on their needs, because the older grades, we know there's needs out for older grades. We're providing an outreach teacher for those services at this point. But it would sure be nice as these kids get older to also have an opportunity for those students as they age to have peers that they can associate with and still stay at home and live with their families. So and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, I think Member Bogus is first up.
I just have 2 quick questions. One, in the video, he said that you, quote, couldn't hire, end quote, anybody in Vernal. Was that because of money or the inability to find a credentialed individual that could do the work?
Yeah, we've interviewed for that position many times, and they don't want to move to Vernal, is basically the problem. And so we will get them, and some of them, once they find out they're going to Vernal, will be like, yeah, I'm out, and they don't want to do it. So we actually have it hired, and then before they even start, they've canceled, or some people don't even apply for the job. We've given a hard-to-fill stipend for that, even as an incentive, and still haven't. I believe, though, we have an individual who has agreed to take that role next year, so praying they stick with it.
Awesome. I have just one other quick question. In your PowerPoint, in particular, there's a beautiful girl with a pink shirt on in the top center. And then down in the right-hand corner, there's an image of some kids watching a slideshow. And it might seem like an awkward question, but for students who have visual impairment, it just seems to me that it might be hard to look at that on a wall. And maybe this is just me thinking beyond the scope in a tangential way, but is there a purpose for how that's projected? Like an educational purpose, or would a high contrast be better? And I'm just asking because it just struck me as odd that it wasn't on a screen. It's on a gray wall.
Those are all deaf students. Not a single one in there have visual impairments. All those students only have a hearing loss.
Yeah, we don't have any classrooms there for the School for the Blind. We're only serving in outreach, the parent-infant program, and in charter schools in Washington School District. So at this point in time, there's not the need there for a blind classroom. So it's only deaf, hard of hearing.
Okay.
That probably is a very clear-cut answer for you.
No, well, knowing that the students are all blind makes better sense.
But you know what? I'm so impressed that you even noticed that, because that's so great that you said, what's going on here? Would it be better to have contrast? I'm so impressed.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your answer, too.
All right, thank you. Back to, unless there are further comments or questions, back to Superintendent Coleman for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so my report, have a couple of items here. Number one, we had our awesome USDB graduation on Thursday. Wait, was it Thursday? Wow, that was already a week ago. It seems like it was yesterday. Anyway, it was very, very awesome, and several of you have gone in past years, and this year the chair was there, and also Leanne Wood actually spoke. So impressive in sign language. And it was, I thought, oh yeah, she's going to say a couple of words, because she doesn't really brag about herself, but she just kept signing and signing directly to these students who were fixated on her, like a board member actually learned sign. It was awesome. And it wasn't bad. It was really good, too. It wasn't, so anyway. And then, yeah. And also, Dr. Dixon was there, which we really appreciate her support. And I know she comes every year that she's able to and doesn't have a conflict, so that was really nice. We had probably the feedback this year was it was the best ever, and not just saying that as a platitude, but the families, you genuinely, with tears in their eyes sometimes, but even extended family members came over and just said, I just don't know what our nephew or niece would have done without this, and it was pretty awesome. And really a lot of kudos to our staff, and I particularly mentioned the interpreters, the IT staff, our facilities people. Just in this meeting, you can see how we have interpreting and so forth, but with us, everything is audio described for the blind or visually impaired, and it is signed and for the deaf, and it's also broadcast so families can see it far away. We also had a family who is Venezuelan, so there's one interpreter in the state who can interpret in listening to the English proceedings, interpret in in Venezuelan Sign Language while he's, it's actually three languages at the same time, because you don't, like, sometimes when people will voice and sign, it's English and ASL, which are two different languages, but you get used to doing those together. He can also do Spanish, so he's quadrilingual, I guess. Anyway, and I watched, and he was sitting in the audience with, facing this little family, because one of our graduates has the family that's from Venezuela. And I just thought, if anyone even knew the logistics that went behind this, we have such incredible people. And so anyway, it's just really, really fun experience, and I wanted to share that with you. School wrapped up this week, of course, another year in the books, and we've got 48 summer camps throughout the state over the next 2 months. And so that's what you saw when Carl reported on the finances. The last half of the enrichment funds basically are going to be spent on those types of things that are coming up here, and that's heavy toward the end of the budget year. And also, I received calls from you once in a while. This week in particular, one board member reached out to me to just say, how is it going? Is there anything I need to know before the meeting? And do you feel like you have the support you need from the board? And I shared with this board member, I said genuinely, and the concern was, well, you only get like, 45 minutes to an hour a month. I said, no. It's so different than it has been in the past. We really, and not just me, my staff, our staff, I should say, has expressed the same thing. We genuinely feel the board is engaged, and it's incredible with all the work you have to do on so many other things. You have bigger fish to fry, but we really genuinely feel the support with the appointment of the subcommittee, with the appointment of Board Member Wood, who comes to our advisory councils, and just everything. I want you to know that as a former board member, I know what you have on your plate. I was in your seat, and we didn't do a fraction of the due diligence that you do when it comes to USDB. And so I'm really grateful for that on behalf of me and the staff. We notice. And so I love getting those calls just to have informal chats. If you ever have a question about anything, feel free to reach out. And I don't care if it's late at night. I'm always up and always available. So that's my superintendent report for today, unless the associates have anything else. Do you have anything more?
One thing, I just got a notification from the auditors that did our space study. They will be presenting on that on June 13th at 1 o'clock.
At Public Ed Appropriations?
At Public Ed Appropriations. They will be present there, will be
Thanks.
presented there.
And then I just wanted to say also that you received an email, I think it was Tuesday, with all of the ongoings for the School for the Blind. And any of those, there's a lot, I realize that, and there's a lot of information to go through. But anything that you would like to attend, just reach out to me, and we're more than happy to have you. We would love you to attend any of it. So reach out to me, and we can make those arrangements. That'd be great.
That's all we have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Coleman. I see Vice Chair Hart has a light.
Yeah, I just wanted to make one correction. We do not have bigger fish to fry. You are big fish, and that's just really important distinction, although I appreciate the sentiment.
Well, thank you very much, and I'll have a couple of comments later if you don't mind. I'll share part of my board chair's report. It was a really cool graduation, so more to come on that, but it was a very inspirational and great event, and watching Member Wood sign and seeing these kids receive what she was doing up there was pretty darn cool. So thank you all. Thank you very much for being with us.